What does healthy parenting look like during the teen years? I have 2 adult kids and I'm about to have 3 teens. So let me tell you, if some of I did right, some I did wrong, and maybe that'll give you some advice on how to be able to parent these years. I call these years the takeover years because these are the years you're slowly giving them the responsibility to be able to manage themselves so that when they launch, they already have the full pressure of what it feels like to carry themselves. And what I mean by that is picture giving somebody 500-pound weights just one day. They wouldn't be able to carry that. However, if you take a few years and you give them 2 or 3 extra pounds per week, eventually they'll be able to carry 500 pounds significantly easier than they would have if it was day one. You need to take these years to build up strength and resilience to understand how decision making and evaluating things in the real world works. But you seed it to them slowly, slow amounts of responsibility so that they're taking over that ability to parent themselves. You're going from parental governance to self-governance, and if you do it well over these years, then it goes much smoother. It's never going to go 100%, so get the idea out of your head that it's going to be just smooth sailing all the way across, because kids are going to find different points of rebellion along the way because they're finding their own identity, and that's a good thing. Rebellion to the point of disruption or rebellion to the point of defiance is not good. However, if you're giving them ownership on themselves, they don't have as much to rebel against. I've learned that the hard way. So what this looks like practically, I'll use the example of my 16-year-old daughter right now. When she turned 13, we started looking at Common Sense Media to be able to evaluate what shows she was able to watch and what ones she shouldn't. Up until that point, I had been looking at it solo and telling her just yes or no. However, at 13, I started involving her in that choice. We would read over the little bits of it, we would talk about the different points, and we would decide, is this the right show or this is not the right show? A few times I had to override and be like, I really don't think that's the right one for you. However, as time went on, I gave her more leeway. And somewhere in the time that she was 15, I realized she was totally fine to be able to go to this website on her own, evaluate if it's something that she should watch, and then watch it. Now, this is something as simple as entertainment and movies, but I think that we should be really cognitive of what we are willing to read or watch or look at depending on our own moral compass. All of us have something that we are not willing to watch. We are not willing to extend ourselves to. We have to decide what that is for ourselves. However, it's nice to be able to go and find that information. So ultimately, I was teaching her how to find that information. So now that she has that muscle memory, she would say, hey, can I watch this? And I would be like, did you read the website? What did it say? What do you think? Are there any talking points you want to talk over? Make your choice. And it frustrates her because she's like, just tell me yes or no. I'm like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not with you for every day for the rest of your life. You need to make choices for you. She just turned 16. Far more of her life should be independent as opposed to leaning on me for making all of her choices. So starting at the age of 13, I brought her into this decision-making process. And at 16, I handed it over to her, which means we have 2 years until she's officially 18, although there's not like an official adult age. When she's 18 and she's like free to go to college and whatever else she wants to do, at that point, she will have the muscle memory to be able to know how to evaluate things on her own. And in these 2 years in between, anytime she stumbles and she falls or she struggles with something and she comes to me, we'll already have that dialogue open because it's a normal conversation that we're having. So I'm not only helping her take over the weight of her own responsibility, but at the same time, I'm teaching her that I'm here for you, that there are no truly right or wrong decisions sometimes. Sometimes it's just evaluating it for yourself, and it's figuring out who you are, because you are not me, you are you. And of course, there's a multitude of examples, but take this and overlay it onto different things that your kids are going to have to hold on their own when they leave their home. One of the things that we need to retrain ourselves as parents during these takeover years is that we don't interject our opinion before we hear at least a few of theirs. We are more of a point of counseling at this point and helping them make wise choices on their own 2 feet, as opposed to just interjecting and telling them, yes, that's right, no, that's wrong. And a lot of the times during this time, they're going to try and rebel against some of your thought processes, some of the things that you believe, some of the things that you're steadfast in, whether it be politically, faith-based, or whatever else. They might start to rebel against that. One of the greatest gifts that you can give them is listening to them. Listen to their opinions. Why did they come to that conclusion? What are they thinking about? Who is influencing that idea? Remind them that you don't always have to agree on every subject, and you're probably not going to forever. And again, this goes back to rebellion. If you're willing to listen to them and love them despite their wrongness of opinion, in your opinion, then that goes a long way to build a bridge instead of cut off communication. See, there's this wonderful thing in the world that we get to love people feel in spite of our beliefs, not because of our beliefs. This also gives them the freedom to explore a lot of different opinions and think a lot of different things before they settle on what their truth is, and gives them the freedom to change their mind later. Because as we all know, our minds change over time. New information, new data sources, new understanding, it just grows us differently. You want to give them the freedom to be their own authentic people while understanding that their authenticity at that point is probably not going to be the same authenticity that they have when they are 20, 25, 30. But in their moments, they're just learning how to think with an adult brain. However, their frontal cortex is not even hardened for another 10 years. Now, of course, all of that is forsaking them making terrible choices that are actually going to be detrimental to their future. I'm just talking about the general things in life where they have different ideas than you have, and it's okay to listen to different ideas. It's okay to lay down your ego and just listen to a different perspective. Maybe they do have something to teach you. There's a strong likelihood they don't. However, sometimes they do. Especially if you've grown up with a not flexible mindset or have not been able to step outside of your own understanding. Sometimes it just teaches you that it's okay to not be afraid of somebody else's opinion. Now here's the thing, after these takeover years are the trial run years, where they're taking all these things that you've taught them for the first 18 years of life and they're trying them out in the real world. There is a high risk of failure when you are trying things out for the first time on your own, and those years are vastly different when it comes to parenting. Your points of counsel are still open when they're requested, however, it's more on a consultant basis as opposed to a regular basis. Because hopefully you've taught them to both stand on their own 2 feet while also remembering that you are a soft place to fall if they need help. My dad always told me that the greatest gift he could give me was for me not to need him, just want him. And I didn't fully understand that until I had children. And until I watched some really dysfunctional parent-child relationships. I was like, oh, that's gonna be a need and not a want. The parent-child relationship goes from overseer to counterparts at some point, where you can glean as much from their life experiences as they can glean from yours. And that's a peculiar and weird feeling. You're like, I grew you. And then you're like, wait, you can teach me things. So give them grace and you grace during these years because they're not easy for either of you. Be slow to speak, be quick to listen. You become more of a guide than a teacher. And there really are a lot of great things during these years, but it comes with some changes, and that's always uncomfy. However, they become adults before you know it, and then you're like, oh good, we both survived. And then you find out that you actually never stop worrying about them. So that's a fun fact. You just worry differently now.